Right, hi. Wow, 10,000 subscribers. Thank you. I'm genuinely blown away. I really didn't expect this at all. Certainly not in the speed of time which it's happened. So I can only say thank you. You guys have done a tremendous thing in terms of empowering me, believe it or not. I kind of consider myself to be a very extroverted introvert, so whilst I can do a lecture and frankly do enjoy them, I do pay the toll afterwards. So it's exceptionally gratifying to see that when I've been doing the clinical skills videos and things like that, that you guys at home are getting an outcome from that. You're getting a benefit. So thank you. That's really inspiring, so that I can try and focus to do more of them. Similarly with that, thank you for all of the comments that you've put. You know, the humorous ones, the dodgy ones, you know, all the very, it takes time out of your viewing to stop and actually put a comment. You know, a comment does require you to engage, and thank you for that. Whether it's positive or negative, you know, you've managed to, reach out to me, and I am so very grateful for that. I hope that some of the suggestions and changes that you've seen, you'll acknowledge have come from comments that yourselves have made. And yes, perhaps because this is supposed to be a video of you guys getting to know me a bit, we acknowledge Bob, the silent partner here. I'm a doctor. I have a skeleton in my front room. What's wrong with that? No, Bob was a present when I first heard that I was going to go to medical school, and he's kind of been with me through every house ever since. But there are some bits of him which are still drawn all over, where you can see where I was learning the various bits of anatomy, particularly for the suturing of the skull. I just want to reiterate, I didn't think that we were going to get to 10,000 subscribers anywhere near this, and I'm absolutely astonished with the response that everybody's come forward for. And I said, hey, let's do a little video if people are interested, and you can ask me a few questions and the like. And to be honest, I actually didn't think it was going to be a great idea, and I really didn't think anything was going to come of it. 2,200 people voted to give 92% response for yes, I have questions. And on the back of that, 67 people sent questions. There is some duplication there and some questions, but we'll definitely look over a lot of these questions in a moment. Well, perhaps, 2% of people I'm more inclined to agree with the whole, dude, get over yourself, I really don't care who you are, which, if I'm honest, kind of covers me most of the time. One of the things I kind of want to establish before I go any further, people have asked or suggested that I'm putting on a voice or something like that when we do the clinical examinations. Okay, and if you could look up, please. And if you could look down. Okay, and look to the left. I've slightly pushed back against that. The reason being is that as part of kind of my Asperger's brain and all the rest of it, I view things that I wear multiple hats. If I'm out with my friends, then I'm wearing a certain hat. If I'm doing an examination of a patient or in a clinical setting, then I've got sort of a Dr Gill hat on. If I'm in Tigger mode, then that's a different hat that lets me do different things. And that's always helped me manage who I am and who people are expecting me to be. It also helps me compartmentalise. So, work is one thing, and when I'm in doctor mode, that's one way of doing things. And then that changes depending on where I am. So I do want to, just reassure I'm not in any way putting anything on, and I think to do so, and particularly then film it, would be quite disingenuous. And that's something that I would never want anybody to describe me as. I have we all have our lines, as it were, and I think that people have a lot of latitude to their behaviour. But personally, I think one thing that is inexcusable is lying, being disingenuous, not being who you are. People can't know you if you're hiding from them, and sometimes we'll withhold parts of ourselves. As I say, that Dr Gill clinical hat, but it is still a valid part of me. And I hope that you can see that distinction when people say, oh, you're a little bit different when you're doing this, or when I've seen you doing this video down at a cycle show, or if you heard me on the radio even, that's a different person. Yeah, but they're all parts of the same me. There's one question here which is saying, would it be possible to do examinations on real patients? I'd love to be able to do that because I think there is a huge learning benefit for that. But I'm not sure whether or not it's going to be easy to do, and because patients are involved, it'll probably have to go through the ethics approval, which means paperwork. But we'll certainly give it a go because, as an example of, a patient who has a hernia, then we may be able to do a history with that patient, which helps students see what particular questions are needed to be asked to get all the information on the GI system about this hernia. But similarly, people will also be able to see how I'm phrasing the questions during that history and how to improve their clinical skills with that. That might also dovetail well to do the history and then a whole examination for the patient. So it's something I can definitely look at. So, nearly 2,000 votes and 67 questions. Shall we have a chat? I tell you what, I thought this was a really good place to do the video. I'm actually sat on a shipping container. It's not the most comfortable in the world, so let's go over to the regular seat. Okay, so we've got the iPad here, and let's see if we can go through some of the questions and things that people have put. Creak, creak, creak. So, Celestial, when did you become aware that you were extremely popular with the ASMR community, and what were your first thoughts when you found out? Well, believe it or not, I was having a dinner party and I got my friends over because I was going to go off and do something. I must confess I forget what it was. It may have been the island. But either way, I'll go off and do an adventure and I'll have my friends round for lunch just in case I expire on said adventure. And in passing, one of the chaps said that he'd been listening to videos online to help him sleep, and he got a terrible shock earlier on in that week when my voice had come out of his speaker whilst he was trying to sleep, which gave him a real shock. And that was where we discovered that people were listening to the clinical skills videos for more than necessarily just learning the medicine. And it's been entertaining, to say the least. There's been an awful lot of ribbing at work about it, but looking over the comments that people have made, people get a real benefit here. People are saying that it helps them sleep and they relax from it. And ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, they're two of the most important factors for life. I mean, with that, there are many, many reasons that people get anxious. And when I was at medical school, my best friend, he had generalised anxiety disorder. So he'd stand there and get in a flaming panic if the bus was late. It was a generalised anxiety disorder. Lots of little things, nothing in particular, could get him really worked up and stressed. And it's one of the things that I now have an awful lot of time for when it comes to helping my patients. It's not unusual to see patients who are well in themselves but have an inner, what's the phrase I'm looking for, unease. And I will do anything I can to help these patients overcome that sense of dread that they have inside that can paralyse their entire lives. So if somebody is listening to these videos, whether or not it's Three Men in a Boat, whatever, and they are getting some release, they're getting some way of grounding themselves, they're getting some way of calming that inner storm, then brilliant. I mean, you know, anxiety and sleep go hand in hand. And I just want to try and expand upon that for a moment. I regularly see people who come into the clinic saying that having problems with sleeping. The cat just walked across. Uncat. We'll deal with that in a moment. And sleep is vital. If you're not getting, you know, your 7 hours at least a night, it's going to have a huge impact on your mental health. And that's going to go with depression, it's going to go for anxiety, it's going to go with eating disorders. It's a huge number of problems. And previously, as human beings, we used to sleep very well. You know, we were controlled largely by the sun, not the clock. And when I was on the island, we didn't even have watches, let alone our phones. And the sun would go down and you'd realise you were getting tired. And if you weren't on fire duty that night, then you slept. And I slept for hours and hours whilst I was there, much better than I do back here. And it was a wonderful time in that regard. So, you know, that brings me back, if people are finding a benefit of sleep, you know, maybe listening to Three Men in a Boat, then magnificent. I can only say thank you for telling me this, because it shows that I'm helping somebody. And even if that's just one person out of everybody here who's subscribing, that's still one person that has had a benefit from here. It's one person who is slightly better than they were. And hopefully that person will be able to take something that they've learned and share it with somebody else. Maybe that's going online and buying audiobooks. Maybe it's, you know, listening to, you know, their laptop with all the lights down low in the corner of their bedroom. Whatever it is, if somebody has managed to benefit, then every minute of this has been worthwhile. So, with that in mind, let's have a look at a few of these things, shall we? So, 92% of people said that they had questions, and 67 people actually put those questions down below. So, let's see what some of those are. Would you ever do a collaboration with Dr. Hollie Berry? I don't think she'd be interested. Lucy Mary, is it possible to do longer demonstration videos, even if a friend acts as a patient? As mentioned, maybe we'll be able to try and include some histories with the examination videos for education of the students, but you can't really extend an examination longer than it is. You know, if it takes 5 minutes to examine the chest, then that's how long it takes to examine the chest. You've also got to think about the patient's discomfort. You know, if you're stretching out an examination for no clear purpose, then a patient is going to feel unnerved by that. And it's important to remain professional and get whatever assessment information you need from the patient as quickly and as professional as you can do. Hausmusum Radhun, my apologies if I've mispronounced that. Have you considered audiobooks? Because what you do is quality stuff. Well, thank you for the comment. And to be honest, in terms of selling audiobooks, the 11,000 subscribers that I've got now, I am astounded by. All the way through my childhood and a lot of my training, I hated my voice. You know, I heard myself recorded and would just cringe. I mean, everybody does that to some degree, but my voice has always been so different compared to my friends and things like that. And oddly, nobody in my family speaks as I do. You know, I'm from Derbyshire. You know, it's all, I'm Derbyshire born, you know, Derbyshire bred, strong in the arm, but weak in the head. But for some reason, I don't know whether it's too much TV or what it was, but I've ended up speaking like this, and I can't help it. But I'm not sure about audiobooks. As I say, I'm doing 3 Men in a Boat for my sister and her nephew, but you know, the concept that people are enjoying listening to my voice, I find thoroughly bizarre. Okay. Chris M. I play your videos for my 94-year-old grandfather. He was an optometrist for decades, from the Vietnam to the 1990s, and he truly enjoys your professional demeanour and calming voice. You help him sleep. I can't thank you enough, Dr. Gill. I can only say thank you to Chris for saying that. I've already said it, sleep is so important, and if he is getting any benefit here, magnificent. I cannot thank you enough, Chris, for just giving that feedback. It's wonderful. It really is. What's your favourite meme or joke that made you laugh hardest in the comments of one of your videos? That's from Casablanca J. Either the double vision, because I realise that it seems a bit strange when you're doing this pointed star, looking for any changes in a person's vision to keep on any double vision. But perhaps the most that I laughed or now feel self-conscious about is the placing a bit of paper. Again, I have odd terms of phrase at times or odd alliterations, and I'm surprised how people have locked onto that. One of my friends did suggest, however, that if things really take off, we record more videos and just have them created by Put a Bit of Paper Productions. I'll leave you to decide if you think that's a wise idea or if that's riding the meme just a little bit too hard. I would love... Oh, hello. I suppose since we're talking through the fourth wall, this is probably an appropriate time to formally introduce this one. So this walking furball, this is Dakar, and I got him when I was at medical school. He was a rescue, and he's been with me ever since. And yeah. When it comes to anxieties and things, I'm pretty sure that Dakar has separation anxiety. If I leave the room, he normally comes with me. If I go to the toilet and shut the door, he'll sit out on the other side yowling. Whenever I've gone on adventures and been away, so when we were in the Himalayas, we were there for 4 weeks, I come back and my housemate will explain at length how he's been a very noisy individual. But on the subject of sleep, this chap helps me sleep. So he frequently pops up. When I say frequently, what I mean is without fail, after I've sort of lain down in bed, sits on my chest and then promptly goes to sleep. He's like a furry version of a weighted blanket. Okay, so if the cat will permit, we'll have a look at a few more of these. Hobbies.com, do you experience ASMR yourself? What are your thoughts on the phenomenon from a doctor's perspective? Thanks. I don't think I do. And if I'm honest, I'd never heard about it until people started making comments on the videos about it. I'll be honest, it's not something I've really actually looked at, but I think perhaps from a medical perspective, it might be worthwhile seeing if I can find anything in the literature to point one way or the other. I mean, Kaylee underneath, have you had anyone approach you in real life about your videos? No. Or about ASMR? No. But if I can find any good evidence, then it might be worthwhile directing some of the patients to these particular resources if it is helping them to relax. So it's something to think about. Gabriel Siminato. Thank you, Gabriel. I've seen your name pop up quite regularly in the comments, and you're always quite useful in terms of giving feedback on the videos, so I really appreciate your contributions here. Did you make the intro tune yourself with your piano? No, unfortunately I'm not blessed with the gift of music. I have 2 left feet and 2 clubbed hands as far as music is concerned. I've never been able to I can play one hand or I can play the other, but I was never able to connect both together. So no, this is a stock thing that I got. However, I have had plenty of comments saying that people absolutely loathe that intro, and it's something that I am actually considering abandoning. So what do you guys think? I'd be quite interested to know on that. So Chris Lowry asks, you naturally evoke through your channel a love of helping people, whether medically or through sleep. Did that love have a specific origin? Any fond memories you can trace to being developmental and fostering that desire to help/teach people? Thank you and keep up the great videos, Doctor. Honestly, I was very lucky. I was raised by my hero. My granddad was a giant of a man in the quietest possible way. And everybody knew him, and the thing that he was known for was his exceptional kindness. Oh, it was never big and it was never showing, but everybody knew that if you had a problem, you spoke to Harry Fitton, and he wouldn't necessarily be able to fix it, but he would make it better or help in some way, and to the best of his ability at that. And I like to try and keep his memory going with that same approach. As a doctor, there's an awful lot of things I can do nothing about. But even those things I can do nothing about, I might be able to help them. And I might be able to reduce their troubles about whatever the problem is. I frequently have patients coming in with money worries and stresses at home. I can't do anything about their husband and their wife, or the issues they're having with their children, but I can talk to them. I can be there, I can listen, and I can give them support, and maybe help them with medication over a short period, or direct them towards counselling services, or look at other things that they can do to help themselves out. And I think having somebody who won't necessarily try to fix things, but will do everything in their power to try and help, is a very, very valuable thing for a patient. Not all patients go to the doctor for a fix. A lot of the time they go there to say, I have a problem, and just have somebody listen to them. And I'd like to think that my pa is proud of the work that he did with me, the care that he gave me when I was growing up, and I'd like to think that he could be proud of his parenting. Okay, that was perhaps going where we didn't expect to go on that one. Arvind Venkat, have you considered doing a podcast? And, or seriously, what did you feel when the ASMR community started loving you? A video describing that would be awesome. I can do a lecture quite easily because I know what I'm talking about, and I will do prep beforehand, and I'll make sure that everything is ready. I'll know the jokes that I'm putting in, I'll know where I'm getting the students to engage me, and I'll know where I'm potentially going to beat them around the head with the information. As for a podcast though, I don't know if I've got enough to say in that regard. It's definitely something we can keep on the table and maybe look at in the future. But at the minute, I don't think it'll work. But we'll see. So can I give you a defining point in my career? I worked in ITU at one point, and you see everything coming through there. But the interesting thing about ITU is the patients who come to you, they are the sickest in the entire hospital. But those patients have gone into ITU because we feel that there is a fighting chance that if we give them every single opportunity that modern medicine has to offer, they may stabilise and they may improve. Okay, so with that in mind, we had a lady came in. She was similar age as myself, I think, 30s at the time, and she'd crashed her bike and hit her head and sustained what's called a diffuse axonal injury. Basically, your brain gets shaken and all the connections break. It's very, very bad. And I remember thinking with this lady, she sort of got under my skin. It's like everything is trying to kill me, you know, just, you know, how dangerous is life? And then one of the seniors put it a different way to me. He said, yeah, life is very dangerous. And in fact, life's so dangerous, you may as well just stay in bed. But if you then did stay in bed, you're going to die of pneumonia and pressure sores. So get out there and live your life. Your life is the most important thing you will ever have. And you don't know when it's a gift that's going to be taken away from you. So use the time, oh, hello cat, use the time that you've got and get out there and live, because you don't know when it's going to change, perhaps in irrevocable ways. And that was a really profound thing for me. And based upon that, that's kind of how I've gone to do the island. It's what's had me at Everest Base Camp. It's, you know, it's the thing that actually lets me get up and do crazy adventures. Are you all right, cat? Are you not getting sufficient levels of attention? The iPad is on the knee. Why is cat not on the knee? This is not acceptable. Never work with, what's the phrase? Children or animals. Better? Better? Okay, well, with cat firmly ensconced, I'm going to see if I can move the camera down, actually, without destroying everything. Oh, no, and cat has now run off, so that's not going to happen. Okay, so we'll wrap up the last few of these, because I'm pretty sure that there's not many more people still watching, because you're all bored rigid. So what are your hobbies? I quite like running and cycling. It keeps me fit and also keeps my brain sane. I find that sometimes everything just gets a bit much, and for want of a better phrase, my brain can get scratchy, and I find getting out into the woods and going for a run, getting muddy, and just generally having my own time being really, really useful. How long have I been practicing medicine? From 64 Vampire Girl. I graduated in 2010, and so now, in August this year, I've been practicing for 10 shockingly long years. And oddly enough, I trained at Warwick Medical School, graduated, and then somehow never escaped the gravitational pull and ended up back there as a clinical lecturer now. But I actually think that gives me a very good insight into helping the students, because I remember those same lectures. I remember being in the same theatres as they are. And I also remember which lecturers inspired me and those that helped me get more sleep. Hopefully for the vast majority of the students, certainly in lectures, I'm not putting them to sleep. But I certainly remember, you know, how engaged certain members of staff got me, and I want to make sure that my students feel, you know, similarly enthused on their chosen subjects. Okay. After doing Bear Grylls The Island, is there any other reality style program you consider taking on, or any style of program really? I do, as daft as it seems, I'd never considered Bear Grylls to be a reality TV show. It was more, we went away and had an amazing adventure with you know, medical oversight, and it happened to be shown on TV. The result of that was an interpretation of the adventures that we had over there. Certainly there was some selective editing that a few of us in the groups weren't entirely pleased about, but I'm lucky that I still keep in contact with a lot of those people. I think if you've survived for 4 weeks on a desert island with no food and things, then you know, there's some special bonds. But in terms of doing something further, I'm currently discussing about maybe trying to do a program about mental health. We'll see whether or not that happens, so watch this space for the time being. Okay. And finally, do I play video games? I'm a big fan of Diablo, because I quite like, well, going around dungeons, but more interestingly for me is Horizon Zero Dawn. I really, really enjoy the post-apocalyptic fiction to it, and more importantly, it's got robot dinosaurs. What more could you ask for? So with that, I think robot dinosaurs is probably a very good place to end this. Thank you to all of you who've subscribed. If, as I've mentioned, if you found a benefit to watching any of the videos from a clinical perspective, whether or not the 3 Men in a Boat has helped you relax or sleep, thank you for sharing that information with me. It certainly empowered me to do more videos. If it has benefited you, I'd be really grateful if you could share it. Maybe somebody else will get a similar benefit. And at the end of the day, hopefully we can all help each other with that. I'm going to say it again, thank you for the 10,000 subscribers I've got at the moment. Hopefully we will build together into this great little community. Thank you for all the comments, the questions, and all the slightly odd statements. Yeah, I will hopefully see you guys soon. Yeah, take care and have a good evening. Cheerio.